Yeah, yeah. Again, it's unlocking the relationship with people, and it's unlocking the conversation, and it's unlocking the motivation. And I think when it comes to storytelling and taking on the emotional side of it, you're putting a picture in people's minds of what the objective is, what this brave new world looks like, why it's going to be great to achieve whatever it is you're trying to do. And I guess it kind of comes back to originally the kind of start of the conversation around, if you want a seat at the table, make sure you've got something to say.
Yeah.
Because there's no point putting yourself in that situation without, you might only get one opportunity to really convince people or to really make things happen, whether it's trying to get a transformation budget approved, or whether it's trying to get buy-in from your suppliers, buy-in from your stakeholders, etc. Because otherwise you kind of put yourself in a position and you're not ready to take advantage of it.
Yeah, in 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you what the best gig you've ever been to was. Or
Blur in Sydney in 1998.
Right, in 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you that.
Sorry.
No.
I felt like I was under a 30-second timeline then.
Yeah. I was going to say one thing about, which we discussed before, was the seat of the table thing, which I know we both don't like as a phrase. But the way I always looked at it was that when I was a kid, growing up in the late 2000s, growing up in the, I was born in the mid-70s, so mid-40s now. And
so you grew up in what, sort of like late 2000s?
Yeah.
I left the growing up till later.
I haven't grown up yet. But there was this thing when my parents would host dinner parties, and they'd get all the neighbours around or get some friends over, and the kids would be on a kids' table or something, or shut away in the living room, and the parents would all be there, having these sort of probably beef bourguignon and smoking or something, I don't know. And you'd sit there and you'd go, oh, it'd be great to be on the adult table. That'd be really cool. And then maybe you go up there, maybe, you get a little seat there and you sit there and everyone's sort of humouring you for a little bit, and then the conversation returns to whatever it is they're talking about. And suddenly you're like, oh, this is a bit boring, or I don't belong here, or whatever. And so that's where it comes from. If you're going to sit at the top table, you've got to have something to say, because you need to be interesting to them, and you need to be able to engage with them on their level about the things that they're talking about. And in the boardroom, that might mean things like fragmentation, deglobalization, neurodiversity, climate, the things that are shaping the business of tomorrow. If you want to be regularly at that table, you've got to be able to talk about those things. But let's go back to Blur in Sydney. Why is that the best gig you've ever been to?
Probably a combination of great venue, exciting times, period of time in my life, all of those things combining for ultimate kind of freedom and enjoyment.
How did you feel when you were sort of there and leaving?
Fairly drunk.
Yeah.
No, euphoric.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And why I use that is because I think essentially that's a story.
Yeah.
Right? And you just come up with 4 or 5 things around some people on stage doing some stuff, which made it magic for you. But it was for you, if that makes sense. It was inspiring. It was there to inspire you. Yes, it's, all right, it's about them. They probably enjoy that. But there's however many thousand people there that is for. That show is for. And I think you can take that into presentations. So I use a little self-made model, which won't be for everyone, but it's a little canvas, and essentially it's split into a few things. But the main 4 are purpose, audience, materials, and you. And so purpose. Why am I telling this story? What do I want to get from this story? And it comes back to your point earlier about that unshakable belief. But if you want to get a decision, or if you want to raise an issue, you've got to be thinking about that on every single facet of your story. Whether it's on PowerPoint, whether it's in Word, whether you're standing up or pitching it, whether it's a combination of them, you've got to keep coming back to, why am I doing this? What do I want to get as a result of doing this? Particularly in things like Q&A and questions and all of that. And then when I talk about audience, who's it for? Why should they be interesting? And what do I want them to do as a result of their, who are these people? Because you can walk into lots of different rooms. And in Blur's case, it's however many thousand Blur fans jumping up and down. Right, it's about them. How am I going to inspire them? How am I going to make them feel euphoric? Then it's about materials. So in this case, we've got the Sydney Harbour Bridge, probably the Opera House. We've got the lights, the acoustics, all these things at your disposal. And in your case, in a procurement person's case, it might just be a pre-read, a deck to read, a deck to present, the chance to stand up and tell a story or something. It might be those, but how am I going to make those things work in sync to give that audience the best possible experience that is going to inspire them and make them feel euphoric or great or whatever. And then finally, it's about you yourself and how do you prepare so that when you get into that room, you're on top of your game. And just going through those 4 things, and next time you have to do a presentation or a pitch or whatever, just thinking about those 4 things, I think can give you, or certainly for me anyway, it's given me a framework to go in and be at my most effective, because it stops it being about you, and it makes it being about the person that you're telling the story to, and hopefully in your most possible effective way, rooted in what you're really trying to achieve.